The crisp mountain air was invigorating, carrying the scent of pine and damp earth as we rode deeper into the wilderness. My cousin, a hydrologist with the Forest Service, had invited me along on one of her trips to test the waters in a particular region. She often had to travel deep into the backcountry to analyze streams and snow runoff, ensuring no contaminants were present. The idea of an adventure in the remote wild sounded like a perfect escape, so I eagerly accepted. We packed our gear carefully, loading saddlebags and saddle bundles, with enough supplies for 2 nights in the wilderness. The first day was breathtaking. Endless vistas of untouched forest, the scent of pine thick in the air, and absolute serene silence apart from the occasional rustle of wildlife in the underbrush. The sky was an endless stretch of blue, unmarred by the noise of civilization. That night, under a blanket of stars, the world felt vast and peaceful. On the second day, as we rode through a particularly dense stretch of trees, my cousin turned to me with a smirk. "You want to see something weird?" she asked. Curiosity piqued. I agreed without hesitation. She led us off our planned route, venturing into a narrow ravine that wound like a scar through the landscape. The detour took us nearly 2 hours from our original path, and the further we went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. The trees grew thicker, their gnarled roots clawing at the soil, and the wind carried an eerie stillness, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Finally, we arrived at a small, sun-dappled clearing. My cousin dismounted and gestured for me to do the same. We tied up the horses, their ears flicking back and forth, uneasy in the unnatural quiet. She handed me our rechargeable radio, a compact device that functioned as both a lantern and a crank-powered radio. "Follow me," she said, her voice low. We moved through the underbrush, guided by a nearly imperceptible wildlife trail. Then, emerging from the earth like some unnatural root, was a coil of wire. It was thin, maybe 10 or 12 gauge, the kind you'd expect in household wiring, not something buried out in the depths of the wilderness. The wire snaked across the forest floor, weaving between rocks and looping over tree limbs before vanishing deeper into the woods. "What the hell?" I muttered, my stomach twisting with unease. My cousin simply gestured for me to keep going. We followed the wire, our boots crunching over fallen twigs and damp leaves. The deeper we went, the stranger the landscape felt. It was as if we had stepped into some forgotten pocket of time, untouched yet inexplicably tampered with. And then we found it. At the wire's terminus stood an old, weathered desk. It was the kind I remembered from childhood classrooms. Metal legs, a laminated wood-like top, chipped and faded with time. There was no chair, no shelter, nothing else around it, just that single desk sitting absurdly in the middle of nowhere. Mounted on the side was an electrical outlet. I stared at it, my mind scrambling for some reasonable explanation. There were no buildings for miles, no roads, no signs of construction. This was untouched wilderness, and yet here was an outlet. My cousin wordlessly took the radio from my hands, pulled out the cord and plugged it into the socket. The radio flickered to life, static hissed through the speaker, a deafening, jagged sound that seemed impossibly loud in the silence of the forest. I felt a cold dread creep up my spine. The wire was being fed power from somewhere, but where? The horses whined anxiously in the distance, stamping their hooves against the forest floor. I glanced at my cousin, who was staring at the desk with the same unsettled expression I must have had. There was no explanation for this, no logical reason why power should exist out here in the middle of nowhere. And yet, it did. And that's the story for today. A mysterious desk powered in the middle of nowhere. It shouldn't be there, yet it is. Why does it exist? Who or what put it there? And more importantly, is there a sinister reason for its presence? If you enjoyed this video and want to help it reach a larger audience, be sure to hit that like button. If you're enjoying the content so far and want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. And if you have any thoughts or theories, I'd love to hear them. Drop a comment down below. Before we wrap up, if you've had any creepy encounters, any paranormal experiences, or a story that fits the eerie nature of this channel and you want it narrated, feel free to reach out. But for now, that's it for this video. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.